All right. So I want to try something a little different today. I'm going to start with a question. Think about the last time you applied for a job. You probably did some research, looked at the company's LinkedIn, maybe, read a few Glassdoor reviews, checked out their careers page, and you built an impression. And then you got on a call with a recruiter. Whatever impression you had before that call, did it hold up or did something shift? Now, that's what today is really about. I'm Brian. This is the Let's Talk podcast, and my guest today is Anam Wilayat. Anam leads employer brand and digital at Silo Talent, which is one of the larger RPO organizations globally. Before Silo, she was Global Employer Branding Manager at WTW, and she's worked with the likes of Palo Alto Networks and Answer along the way. So she's seen a lot of employer brands from the inside, and more importantly, she's seen where they break down. Today, we are talking about talent acquisition and employer branding and whether the two are actually as connected as they should be. Spoiler alert, they're usually not. Anam, good to have you on the Let's Talk podcast.
Thank you so much, Brian, and such a wonderful introduction. I am flattered and very interesting topic indeed, because this is something that we on a day-to-day basis with, but never really acknowledge. So I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation and answer questions that we think of, but not really address openly.
No, I'm so glad that you've said yes, and I cannot be more excited to actually listen to everything that you have to say. So let's start with something that might make a few employer branding professionals a little uncomfortable. Does talent acquisition have more influence on employer brand perception than the employer branding function itself?
Very good question. I think let's break this down. So, talent acquisition does have a little bit of influence on employer brand perception, but they don't realize that they do. And employer brand team thinks that they are the ones who are, setting up the narrative, but it has a lot more nuances to it than they may think of. There are so many more factors to it, which they tend to overlook. Now, they might be speaking on different platforms, on social media, through your emailers, through your offline marketing channels. But who is the one who's really setting up the perception of the brand? It's the talent acquisition team. They are the people who the talent is interacting with from a very first level. Now, the EB team may or may not be in an example of, let's say, we're going to a recruitment event where we're going to like a walk-in job interview. Is the employer branding team there talking about the right things? They might not be there. But the recruiters, do they really know how to bring in the employer branding narrative to the talent? Maybe talk about things that would make sense, that would resonate with the talent. That's where I think that there is a difference. And the talent is listening and reading some things, but is it matching what the recruiter is saying? It may or it may not. Talent acquisition has to understand what the brand is, which I think many of them don't take an effort to. And employer branding also has to understand, how do we convey this? If we are creating this message, at what touch points, how do we convey it when it becomes very real, instead of just having like really nice pictures, really nice EVP statements? And what can we do? And the EB team also has to ask itself, what can we do to make sure that we're supporting the talent acquisition team?
True. And I've had this experience in the past myself where, business organizations, when they plan a presence at a conference or at an exhibition and at a careers fair, the employer branding team more often than not is missing. And it's usually so as a career fair that you would talk, it's the focus would only be TA because as per the company, the business says that we need people. We need people, so that's why we're going to be there. So then the TA has to be there, right? But employer branding is never invited, called, or anything. They might do the messaging, which would be there from a messaging point of view, but on ground, No. And I'm glad you called it out because I've had this in the past. And if those people are listening, they would probably say, "Hmm." So I'm glad you're saying that because recruiters are your brand ambassadors, which is correct. So if candidates are experiencing your employer brand through recruiters more often than through any marketing campaign, does that make recruiters your most important employer brand ambassadors? And where do you think it starts with them? Because, you
At
know,
what point? Yeah.
yeah, at what point?
So I think the recruitment team, the talent acquisition team, they're not the creators, they're not the holders of the message, rather, they are the conveyors. So if we look at the journey, right, from creating of an EVP, understanding what the narrative of this company should be, having it out there, and I think this part people miss, where recruiters are going out talking to talent. The point at which recruiters have to be involved has to be from the very beginning. Why? Because they are the ones that will be help give insight onto what the talent is currently saying about your company.
Correct.
Now, to get back to your question on are they our ambassadors? Eventually, they are the conveyors. The authenticity of the brand or the company comes from its people. So, those are in, like, the true meaning of the word ambassadors. The people are the ambassadors. But talent acquisition team, as well as the recruiters, even the sourcers sometimes, they are the conveyors of the message. So, equipping them becomes very important. I'll give you an example of how does this look like in a scenario, right? When a recruiter is talking to talent in a very specific location, let's say they're hiring for a very specific, region of India, let's say, and they are talking to the talent, and he says, "Okay, I see that on LinkedIn you are saying that you have very flexible work policy, but within this team you are saying that I have to be compulsory in office for 4 days a week. That doesn't make sense." So then the recruiter is stumped, like, yeah, that is for other teams, but not for your team. And we have not equipped the recruiter. By we, I mean talent leadership as well as the branding team, on how do we handle this, right? How do we make sure that a recruiter specifically hiring for, let's say, sales roles or hiring for manufacturing roles, how do they, do this kind of objection handling? So we have to now start looking at employer brand from a very micro level. Break it down. What function needs what problem solving? Because not every function works in the same way. Of course, you have your overarching EVP and the culture that sort of presides over the entire company. But when it comes to real hiring, and when it comes to being answerable to the leadership on how much is this investment going to help me, that's when recruitment comes into picture. At the end of the day, they want bums on seats. So how are we enabling that is the question, and that is where the shift, I believe, needs to come.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask a very, it's not controversial, but it can get controversial. Can a great employer brand be damaged by a poor candidate experience, even if all the branding fundamentals are in place?
Oh, yes, it can.
Give me some. I'd really like to know. And, maybe you have seen this in your past experiences or you have heard of this or whatever. It'd be great to understand what are those kind of experiences.
Of course, of course. I mean, and over here, I think there are few more aspects to it than just recruiters. So let's say, what does a perfect employer brand really look like, right? Let's just first define that. So you have your really nice EVP, you have all the budget to create a very nice video, people can feel how is it like to be in your organization, and everything is just on point, where your website says the right things, your LinkedIn posts are updated, you have a lot of associates talking about how great it is like to work here. And then you get on a call with a recruiter who, and you're doing your first round, and okay, yeah, we're this, we're that. Okay, fine, yeah. I mean, it didn't live up to what they were saying. Had read about how perks and benefits are great. I read about that they have a really nice paternity leave. But is it applicable to me? Questions arise, What we start thinking now is the recruiter customizing the brand for this talent?
Hmm.
So customization of the brand becomes very important. Are they trained for that? No. Something that we never have thought of is, are the hiring managers promoting it? So we are going one step further. Hiring managers are also talking, they're talking about the team. When a candidate decides, okay, this is who my boss might be, this is this is the people that I'll be working with. And then there's another competitor who has a hiring manager who's more convincing. And let's be honest, in the tech job market and in many others, people are shopping for roles.
Correct.
So, what is going to convince me to join you? Are the recruiters trained enough to customize the brand to this talent? Are the hiring managers trained enough to know what to say and what to really sell? What will be of value to this talent? Because they're just talking about the role. But at the end of the day, we know that there's much more than that. You will do the work job that you are being hired to do, but what's in it for me? Will I have a great work life balance? Will I get really half a day off on Friday if I ask for it? Is my manager flexible? Rewards and recognition, how does that work? How are teams being recognized? Hiring managers and recruiters both are not talking about that enough. They're not trained enough on it. So there are times where we have experienced a loss of talent because not the recruiter, but the hiring manager was not able to convince
Mm. I've
on
seen
why
that
should you
happen
be
as well.
joining.
I've seen that happen as well many times where the recruiter has been pretty sleek into what they do, but then when the ball is passed to the hiring manager, that's where the ball gets dropped because either there's disconnect between the two. And rightly said, I completely agree with you. Would you think that is there a point of no return during that time frame where like can a company recover from a reputation for bad candidate experience or does that stick?
I think they can if they work on it, because you will go to your glass doors and your ambition box and see, okay, it's there. People make a judgment call, and let's be real. In how quickly the market moves, some people don't care. Like, I don't care, I want a job. But that doesn't mean that you stop caring about what conversations are happening about your company. Doesn't matter if the candidate cares or not, but you have to care, because in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, you need the right people. And I cannot stress enough, and I think companies understand it. But the larger people who are working at associate levels, people who doing their day to day, other teams, it's very important to understand people affect the bottom line. Very much so. The kind of people that are coming in, the kind of people, how they'll be able to change your organization in a way that is beneficial, how they will be able to bring in processes and functions that will help you grow as an organization is very, very important. And that's where I think we come back to what we were talking about earlier, that employer branding is not being taken seriously enough, and it needs to start being taken seriously enough, because now with so many companies emerging, you have to set a base for very talented people to choose you over someone else. And if you're competing with a competitor within an industry, why would you not compete for talent? Why do you not care about your Glassdoor reviews? Why do you not care about your candidate experience? It is literally your reputation. So much so that companies will then start looking at your product. Oh, this company doesn't treat its employees right. I'm not going to buy their product.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Always said this that when it comes to employer branding, you really need to start looking at your EVP almost like your CVP, and then you marry the two, correct? And then say that how your EVP influences your CVP. I
Absolutely.
don't know if people get it yet. I think some of them are getting it, but
Yeah.
it's a bit of a slow burn at the moment.
Hmm.
But something that you said a little earlier, the say-do gap. What's the biggest disconnect you see between what companies say about themselves and what candidates actually experience during the hiring process?
So, yeah, good question. And I think that is so evident now. People refuse to see it. Companies, what they are trying to do, they are trying to talk about what they want to be rather than who they are. People want to say are innovative, we are using the best tech. I don't know if these words are trademarked as if we are change makers, we are revolutionizing. But are you, what is happening is companies are putting statements out there which are more of vision and vision statements that this is where we are working towards. But candidates don't see that. They say, you're saying that you're really high tech, but then your VPN system doesn't work. Way to raise a ticket is so, outdated. Small, small things.
Correct.
So I think we have to be self reflective, even as employer brand people, and put it out to the leadership there that listen, we are not there yet.
Correct.
We are going to be there. We need people to be there. Let's be honest about what we're saying. That we are envisioning ourselves to be the best in tech. We are envisioning ourselves to be, ad agency who gives amazing creative ideas. We want you to help us get there. And when a candidate joins, they can see it clearly in the processes, in the onboarding, in how your one-on-ones are going, in the hiring manager, in even experiencing with the equipment, right? How was it delivered? How well the whole process was done? So that's where the biggest disconnect is, where companies are talking about where they want to be, and candidates join a company who are not there yet.
Correct. I completely agree with you. Anna, my God, if people are listening to this, they'll probably send the cops on us. We we're really calling them out. Okay, next question. You worked across a lot of different organizations. So from that experience, what actually separates recruiters who strengthen an employer brand from those who unintentionally weaken it? And it's not their fault, right? Because as you said, they're not trained, they would not be given the information, they're going by what they've understood, not
Mm,
necessarily what they've been told.
yeah.
So yeah, be great to hear your take. As in, whose job is it to create that mindset? Is that on the TA leader, the EB team, or does it have to come from the top?
The top. Wow. And that's so great because you said the key word, which is mindset. And I know all of us get trained on growth mindset, fixed mindset. But when I read that book, I was like, this is more serious than we made it out to be.
Yeah.
This is everything. I have worked with my fair share of recruiters, interact with them, because that's why we're having this conversation. I believe that that is important, and that personally I like to take those steps, right? There are some who just like, it's just not for me. I'm going to do things the way that I do. They are essentially salespeople hunting for people, right? This is the way that I do things. I'm not going to do it. That's a fixed mindset. Then I have also met recruiters who have a growth mindset. Oh my God, this branding is so great. Can you teach me more about it? I would like to be involved. How can I help? I want to do all these social media things. They are going to be so much fun. That's just mindset. And then you mentioned who is responsible, the TA leaders, employer branding, or the top leadership. I think there is a part for everyone to play in it. For TA leadership is to make sure that it becomes something that they deliver on. Like, are you really doing this? For employer branding, it is to understand how can we package this for you in order to make it easier for you. The branding team asking, okay, like, let's say a PDF about the company will help. Do you think benefits will help? Something that we can design, something that we can really shape the narrative of. How can we support you? And then, of course, it goes both ways for recruiters to also fall back on them and say, listen, this is where I think it would be helpful, and give a little more direction to the EB team as well. And of course, all of this is from a very micro level of the whole employer branding process. And for the leadership to ask questions.
I'm going to give you an example, and I'm pretty sure people listening to this would resonate. Sales and marketing team, and I'm talking about product sales and marketing. When a new solution or a new product is going to be launched into the market, you will have a playbook. You will have cue cards for salespeople. You will have the 7 email nurture thing. You will have a landing page. You will have a web page. You will have, a quick 1 sheet or 2 sheet brief note just so that people can quickly go and refer to. You're doing all of this to acquire clients.
Correct.
Why on earth do you not do all of this to acquire the right
Talent.
kind of people to come into your company? Because this
Absolutely.
also is a sales thing. And everything that I've said, your web page, your landing pages, your playbooks, your cue cards, all of that will become fodder for TA. And they have all of this when they're going out and speaking to candidates. And so they're really well equipped. This same information can then be given to hiring managers, and hiring managers and then TA is speaking the same language.
Yes.
Yes, utopia?
Yeah.
Maybe, but
Yeah,
it's not difficult. It's definitely not impossible. It is
it isn't.
absolutely possible if you put your mind to it and you go, huh. So let's just hope whoever is listening to this goes, huh, maybe we can do this, right?
It's
But we
as
were
simple.
talking about we were talking about stakeholder alignment. So stakeholder alignment from the top gets talked about a lot in employer branding, right? So what does true alignment between employer branding, talent acquisition, marketing, and business leaders actually look like in organizations that are getting it right,
Yeah.
not getting it wrong, the ones who are getting it right?
The ones that are getting it right, of course, have very a clear picture of what they want. So if, let's say, the employer brand and the TA team, as I said, when the process starts, they have to be together. They have to bring that vision to the leadership that this is where we want to be, and for the leadership to enable both the teams in making sure that there is the work that is being done is being understood by the TA. They're taking accountability that yes, whatever comes from employer branding, we will make sure that this will go out,
Yeah.
that there has to be some sort of level of reporting, there has to be accountability within the team to do that, and for employer branding to make sure that they listen, they understand from TA, they understand from leadership, and make the case as to why the people, time, effort needs to be put in so that we help enable the TA team. What the biggest challenge an EB team faces is budget. Like, why do we need to spend that much
If there
for
is one.
this, if there is one? Exactly, all of this together has to work in a way that we are helping each other out, right? At the end of the day, this is where we help the company build for the talent to come in and eventually help us all grow, right? Growth is not just with TA, not just with EB, not just I mean, leadership, of course, looks at it from a larger view, but it's not just one team, it's together. And if someone from the leadership understands it, if the message cascades in a way that the team feels that, yes, we're in it together, that's when you will be able to come up with solutions which are branding solutions, which are making more of an impact. Now, I'll just give you a scenario. Think of it now. If they are not working together, they're working independently. An EB team is asked, okay, so what did you do and what were the results? That's asked. We've made those slides and decks that, okay, we made this banner, this was our messaging, this is how many people saw it. And then the question asks, okay, but then how does it convert?
Correct.
That's when there's a question mark. And an EB team cannot alone answer that question if the TA team is not involved from the very beginning. The funnel, like you said, in a marketing and a sales campaign for product has to be set up in the same way for EB and talent acquisition. And the ownership has to be taken by all three, and has we are not working closely enough with TA as much as we should.
No, I don't think, and I'm glad you spoke about the conversion bit. I wouldn't be surprised, and I have seen this happen many times, that the EB team has no clue about the conversion rate.
Yeah,
Right.
no
They
clue.
know that they're working on a campaign. They know that they have gone ahead and created this campaign, but how many have converted and how many have really moved through that journey and are now sitting on that seat? It is really important to understand the journey, not get that information 3 months or 4 months later. And then TA would turn around and say, hey, that campaign didn't work. But the campaign could have worked if you would have been in tandem speaking to it, because we're not saying that every campaign that an EB person creates works, right?
Correct.
We
Yeah.
all do A/B testing. So it's very important to understand that, okay, this messaging is not working. Let's pivot. Let's switch.
Yeah.
Let's do something for
Mm.
the conversion thing. Even with the EB teams, they need to also understand that it's conversion. It's conversion. It's conversion. That's the most important thing to go to. That becomes your return on investment. That is
Exactly.
when EB teams go up to leaders and turn around and say that we converted, leaders will then say, that was your return on investment. Here's some more budget for you.
Absolutely. See, we go back around. We understood exactly what is needed to get
Correct.
more
It's
budget.
like and it's not just always TA, but I'll go back to what you turned around and said a little while ago, and I'm digressing, but I wanted to understand. So you said TA are conveyors. They're not the ambassadors. So who, according to you, is the ambassador?
Ambassador of employer brand.
Yeah.
There's not one alone. I mean, of course, the employer branding team, the TA team, and each and every person in the organization. Whenever you're having a conversation about your company within networking events, if you're going out, you are telling a story. And it is forming an impression on someone, whether you like it or not. And f- no one has complete control over it, while some teams could be held responsible. But as I said, the bud of it, the creation of it, the design of it comes from employer branding. But that's it. That's the start of it. It then goes, it grows, it roots through TA, to associates, through HR. Every experience is an experience of an employer brand. Every experience is an experience of what the company is.
Correct.
And we can't, I mean, I can't say there's just
I
one
completely
ambassador.
I know that you can't call it one person. It is a mix of everybody. I always say that employer branding, think of it like a chocolate, like a chocolate bar,
Yeah.
right? You have so many people, so many teams that go into creating that chocolate bar, right? Which is your ultimate experience. So it's the colors, it's the font, it's the way the wrapper opens, when it opens, then when you take a bite of the chocolate, and then how what it feels like. So there's
Feels
so many elements to make you feel that experience that you feel. That is exactly what employer branding is. Nobody can own it, but everybody owns it.
absolutely.
Correct. So, on that note, let's see. I'll ask you my last question. One piece of advice each. Okay. So, if you could give one piece of advice to employer branding leaders and one piece of advice to talent acquisition leaders, what would it be? So that candidates actually experience the brand the way it was meant to be.
So for employer branding leaders, and I think I'm speaking to my peers here, I understand that it's important for you to set a narrative. The colors, the brand, everything is very, very important. And you are doing that. That is majorly part of your job to build in that brand experience. And I'm not saying that's less, it's equally important, but make sure that you understand all touch points of your brand. And you are not giving enough. You are. I mean, it's not like they're ignoring it. They are giving enough, they are giving attention to recruiters, but that's not enough. Start having two-way conversations. That would be for employer branding people, and for talent acquisition leaders, I would say hold your recruiters accountable on how they are conveying the brand. Try to understand and convey with the employer branding team where do you think the missing points are, because they know more than they think they do. They can bring insights which are so much important, which will help the employer branding team. If you really want to make a difference as a talent acquisition leader, keep branding in mind. I mean, just to look at psychology of consumers, right? Brand is so important. Everything depends. I will go with a branded bag. I would not buy something like this. Or I prefer this because it has better quality. Why will someone not do the same when they're joining a company?
Correct.
And that's their life. That's what is going to go up on my CV. So TA leaders, please make sure that don't underestimate yourself on your knowledge of how you feel the talent perceives you or your company. So, and please have regular connects. Very
Yeah, no,
important.
I think it
Put
is
it on the
really
calendar.
having regular connects and not working in silos is, I think, a great takeaway here. Very important. Anam, oh my God, I could keep going on and on about this, but I guess I'm being mindful of time. I really genuinely enjoyed this one. Your passion to employer branding, fantastic. I thought I was passionate like crazy, but to see that you are equally passionate to employer branding, I now know that I'm not the only one in the village, which is fantastic. I think what I keep coming back to after this conversation like this is that employer branding is not a department, right? Because just said that nobody owns it, but everybody owns it. It's not a campaign. It's every single interaction a person has had with the company before they join, and
Yeah.
honestly, even after they join
Yeah.
too. And if the people doing the hiring aren't part of that story, the whole thing is a bit pointless, right? So listen, to everyone listening, thanks for spending time with us today on the Let's Talk podcast. If you don't know me yet, or if you don't know us yet, I'm Brian, CEO and co founder at Let's Talk. Let's Talk is an employer branding and talent marketing agency. We work with companies across India and Australia, and basically what we do is help organizations figure out what's actually true about their workplace and tell the story well. So, if today's conversation made you think, huh, reach out. We'd love to talk. See you on the next one. And Anam, thank you. You were fantastic.
Thank you so much, Brian. It was lovely to be here with you.